When Canadians think about the most important and consequential military victories in our history, they might think of Vimy Ridge or D-Day and the assault on Juno Beach. But you can make a really strong case that the most important battle and victory in Canadian history was fought here at Chrysler's farm. Well, not exactly here, somewhere out in the middle of the St. Lawrence River, because in the 1950s, the actual battle site was submerged to make way for the St. Lawrence Seaway. But here is where the monument for this important and critical battle in Canadian history now stands. Here was where a force of 800 to 1,200 British, Canadian, and Indigenous warriors stood down a force of up to 4,000 American soldiers. They were outnumbered in many cases 3-1 by most estimates. And yet, the British, Canadian, and Indigenous warriors who fought here won the day, defended their land, and saw to it that the U.S. invasion and the U.S. attempt on Montreal would stop here. The man of the moment at Chrysler's farm was undoubtedly British Brigadier General Joseph Morrison, New York-born British Brigadier General. Morrison won the day at Chrysler's farm with superior tactics and discipline. That was what the difference was, really, in this battle.
According to Donald Graves, Canadian historian and author of Field of Glory, Joseph Morrison had good reason to feel satisfied during the evening of 11 November 1813, because he had done what every soldier dreams of doing, fighting the perfect battle. He had picked an excellent position and used the superior discipline and firepower of his troops to repulse an enemy he believed to be more than 3 times his number. Now, according to Lieutenant Christopher Hagerman, a staff member of Joseph Morrison, it would be impossible to speak in too high terms of the conduct of our officers and men. Colonel Morrison, though not over 30 years of age, showed a coolness and judgment which must ever render to him the greatest honor.
American historian Walter Borneman, the author of 1812, The War That Forged a Nation, presents this case as to why the American attempt on Montreal failed.
I think the campaign against Montreal went wrong on a couple of points. One was certainly logistics. I mean, it was a daunting task to be able to move men and material across, limited road systems, even relying on the St. Lawrence River. I think the other Achilles heel on the American side was poor generalship. The 2 generals that are involved, James Wilkinson, he's sort of a scoundrel in the American Army for a number of reasons. And the other man who's leading the campaign arm that comes out of Lake Champlain is a man named Ward Hampton. And by this time, he's 60 years old. That's old for the time. And the worst part of it is they simply don't work well together. But I think there's really a third reason why the American attack in 1813 against Montreal fails, and that's the British and Canadian resolve. I mean, from a militia in the field to British regulars to really some pretty high-quality generalship, the Canadians and British are determined to stop the American advance, and they do.
I also wanted to know what the American leadership thought of their Canadian and British adversaries in the case of the battle at Chrysler's farm, Joseph Morrison, and in the case of the battle at Chateauguay, Charles de Salaberry.
I think they really underestimated the leadership. And, you've, of course, got the great example of Isaac Brock, who unfortunately does not live to see this after the action in 1812. But both of these men, de Salaberry and Morrison, really are professional soldiers. De Salaberry is born a French Canadian, but he's cut his teeth in the British Army, serving on the continent. And when he's back along the St. Lawrence frontier, he really is totally competent. And certainly when you add Joseph Morrison to that mix and look at the caliber of men on the American side, including the dysfunction of the generals with Wilkinson and Hampton, there's really quite a difference in terms of not only military resolve, but military tactics and wherewithal.
Famed Canadian historian and expert on the War of 1812, Donald Graves, wrote in his book, Fields of Glory, that the victory here at Chrysler's farm and the victory at Chateauguay preserved the independence of Canada. That the victory here, one that cost lives, Canadian, Indigenous, and of course British lives, is in fact our most important military battle. But few Canadians actually know much about the battle at Chrysler's farm, if anything at all. And not to sound preachy here, but the lessons Canadians can take from the Battle of Chrysler's farm are very important. That no matter the size of the enemy, foe, or the task in front of you, with enough determination, with strategic planning, and with sheer will, you can win the day. You can defeat the enemy in front of you. I think it's a great lesson for Canadians and a reason why the victory here at Chrysler's farm and the sacrifice that it cost to win here is one that we should all remember as Canadians. If you like this content and you want to see more Canadian history content, pro-Canada content, let me know by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing this video with your networks. That is the best way you can help this channel grow. Thank you all for watching.